Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and what we wanted to do today was go ahead and give you your first look of the Hercules Star Lifter by Crusader Industries, the C2. Now in this patch we have the C2, the M2, and the Tonk on the PTU. I plan to cover all three of them in quite a bit of detail. With this patch being as new as it is, performance is not great right now, so we're doing a quick look in Arena Commander. So there will be a lot of more stuff on the Hercules, specifically about like atmospheric flight, loading up vehicles, cargo, transportation, all that sort of stuff. So here we have it. C2 looks basically like we expected it to. It is a very nice looking ship. You do kind of have the holes on the undersides of the wings. I'm hoping that's really just designed to provide a little bit of mass reduction as you're looking at things. You can also see that you do have kind of the extended tails, and I don't know if that's for a purpose or not other than just aesthetics, but in a flight model perspective it does handle itself pretty well. If we zoom in just a little bit on this, you'll see that you do have two pilot controlled weapons. They look to be Revenant Gatling guns, and they are pretty angry when you fire them off like you would expect them to be. Here you can go and see that we're ripping a couple of those off. Now, if we want to do a quick components review, let's pull up the menu and see what all we have on board. You do have pretty good access to all of the components internally. So you'll see that there's a lot of size 3 components here. So you got your Gonzelle thermal cores, you got the Revenants, and on your turrets you have M6As, which are the size 4s. You have an upper turret and a lower turret. Both of those are remote turrets operated by your co-pilot seat, which I will hop over and show you in just a moment. Shield-wise, you've got strongholds, comma for a jump drive. It shares the same jump drive that the Caterpillar uses. No, excuse me, I think the comma is the one that's on the Hammerhead, so probably not worth keeping. So I would definitely consider a upsize there to make sure that you're fast and potentially more efficient. So we will go ahead and jump on out of the seat real quick and look at the co-pilot just so you can see how those turrets are actually operated. This is the bridge of the ship. It's pretty straightforward. You just have really 2 seats available to you. There's some internal, what looks to be like piping that's really available to you. But in the co-pilot seat, you've got these 2 turret options. So the first one for remote turret is the one that is located on the, I believe this is the underside of the ship. It is, and you can see that the weapons do fire off. In certain angles, you will notice that you actually have both top and bottom turret firing. So you can see the bottom one firing, or the top one firing as well. If we enter the other turret, you'll notice that we are now on top of the ship. This is on the rear of the ship. You do have a significantly more limited firing arc. So since you have pilot controlled weapons in the front, this is really your dedicated firepower to the rear. But again, when you fire these off, you'll see that the top and bottom turrets both, kind of aggregate in the same direction to this pilot's control. So let's go ahead and take a look at the interior of the ship. It is very aircraft feeling in here with the visibility and the control scheme. You do have some panels in here. They don't appear to be working yet. I assume these will be engineering and control panels at some point. Same thing with these the little panels right here for what looks to be some like piping or diagnostic type work. One thing that's nice about this ship is you'll notice in a couple different areas where you have lighting control. You can see that there is a full power light, you have a dim light, and then you can actually turn the lights all the way off. Which is kind of fun because I think in the long run you probably have some functionality there as far as how you will do things, and maybe that impacts stealth to some degree. In this area, this looks to be unfinished or maybe not completely implemented. The devs had said that there are some gaps in where this is all going to be. This almost looks like it could be some form of like elevator system, but it also looks like it could maybe be a escape pod. That's really my guess here, is escape pod. In these, it looks like these are probably going to be, like environmental suits. But again, there's nothing really there, and it's mirrored on the other wall. Similarly mirrored back here, you have a nice looking gun rack that gives you quite a bit of storage for your firearms and your sidearms and potentially other attachments. and you do have one on both sides. So the amount of weaponry you can store on this ship is handy, and also something that, you know, if you enjoy killing NPCs and keeping their weapons, you can load up some weapon rack here for your friends. Coming back a little bit further, this is when you start really getting into some of the larger components on the ship. So you got shield generators right here. You know, if we open up the other side, it's your other shield generator. It's very large. It's a, you know, it's a large shield generator. It's what you would kind of expect to see. A little bit further back, you got a lightning component here, and then another of the same right there. So I believe that's a power plant, but I'm not positive. My knowledge is a little bit limited on some of the components I don't use very often. This is kind of your main space on the ship that's not cargo related. You've got a little bit of stuff on the left hand side, some on the right, even though I just did those backwards. If you look all the way back, this ungodly light that seems to be appearing, I believe is some sort of like generator for your ship, or it's some sort of power plant for your ship that's actually doing the work. It seems strangely exposed, so I'm questioning the design a little bit, but from the rule of cool factor, it's pretty nice to see. Coming a little bit further back, again, you have more component housings. So they are all interactable. You can open them as you would expect to be able to. So these are coolers. You do, like on the 890 and a couple other ships, have an exposed engine. This one has a very nice design, a cool blue glow. It's a nice aesthetic. More components to interact with over here. Once we actually get back a little bit further in the ship, you're going to notice the ship does not actually have a captain's quarters. So on this side is going to be your recreation / crew not really habitation, kind of living space, if you will, though. You've got your little kind of eat-in area. You'll notice a little kitchenette. You've got your refrigerator with space watermelon and space beer and apparently herbs. You got some plates, the coffee maker, all that shindig. You do have a couch with a TV, so hopefully you get some further controls on that in the future, which should be kind of fun. You got some light reading here, so if you're interested, Stanton system, a brief synopsis and time. Should be interesting for you to learn all about the Stanton system. If we jet across to the other side, what you'll notice is we have the true habitation area. So this is where you're going to have your storage areas in here, so your lockers for your crew. Like some of the other ships, I think we see this on the Mercury as well. There's kind of these strapped-in bags that I think eventually you'll be able to access. Again, a non-functioning display that will hopefully in the future provide some value. You've got a couple bunks. You've got a couple water closets, which is essentially your standard issue toilet. You have one on both sides. Back here you have more of the crew lockers. And then we can start looking again at more components that are available on the ship. So for example, these little areas over here, this is labeled as a storage unit. Although you see what's here, it really looks more like a component even though it says storage. So maybe this opens up and you can put something in there at some point, but that's not really the case at the moment. Where things get a little bit more interesting is the lower level, which is primarily your cargo area. You can take the stairs down right here, and that's a little airlock that will open up as you start to progress down. You also have the primary elevator for the ship that you can call with the little black indicator on the side. Eventually I expect that screen to work, but right now it's not in that place. So as those doors open, we will go ahead and go to the lower deck. You'll notice that there is an exit ship option, which I'm assuming takes you all the way to the surface, but since we're in space, that can tend to get a little bit wonky, so we're not going to mess with that right now. Here is your massive cargo hold. You'll see there's one of the ladders that you can take down to get into the ship, or down into this cargo area, or get back up on top, but the elevator is significantly faster as far as making that, that journey. Over here you'll see that you have the doors. I will remind you that the Hercules is designed to be a drive-on, drive-off delivery system for some of the larger ground vehicles in the game. So here at the front of the ship you'll see the doors open and the ramp extends. That will touch down to the surface if you were landed. And then on the back side of the ship you have the rear ramp, which is your primary ramp. So if you're just loading cargo, for example, and you don't plan on driving it off the front, you would only really need to interact with this one ramp. This one, you'll notice, doesn't have the major doors actually on top of it, because it's essentially, at the back of the ship. It doesn't need that kind of aerodynamic that you have at the front. big storage area. Reminder, this carries more than a Caterpillar. So we will run back up and hop into the cockpit real quick and give you a brief overview of the ship's flight model. Again, it's going to be a limited testing because you're actually in, because we're actually an arena commander, and a big ship like this tends to take up time to get up to speed. So it's hard to really tell you how fast, how well it decelerates, all that. I will tell you though that based on some very simple flight testing, the ship is maneuverable. As far as the G's that it pulls, it's over 9 on the acceleration with boost. It's about 4.5, which is your standard acceleration. That is more acceleration power than you have on the Caterpillar. From the actual flight model perspective, I will tell you that the yaw feels about like you would expect it to. It's a little bit sluggish. The pitch up and down is adequate. It's not great. What makes the ship really interesting is the roll rate. The ship rolls very quickly for a ship like this, which means that from a flight model perspective, you're not going to necessarily be able to yaw and keep on target if you have to fight somebody. What you probably want to do is roll and pitch to follow a target. Even though that may come with a little bit of oversteer, it will help you actually continue to be able to fire or engage, or potentially even just turn around and get out of town if you need to. I would say it is maneuverable but drifty, which is kind of a weird stance. So it almost feels like there are certain thrusters that perform better than others, but it does kind of float around as you are flying. So I will get you a better angle on that. We are flying with the ramps open, so take that for what it is. But you can tell that it actually performs pretty well. Engine sounds are appealing, and overall the ship is just very well designed. It is fun to fly. It looks like it's going to be very practical, but I'm dying to get in and do a little bit more testing on it. So yeah, there is your first look on the C2. So as I mentioned, much more content coming soon. M2 review, in-atmosphere, combat, etc. So yeah, just wanted to give you a first look now that we have it. I know a lot of people were excited for it, so hopefully this whetted some appetites and got some answers for you. If you have questions, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, stay tuned for a lot more coming soon. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.